Hello and welcome to session 4 of our inquiry around going on a journey. And today what we're going to do is go on a journey back in time. We're going to look at ancient ways of sharing where the journeys went. We're going to be thinking about maps, making ink, thinking about how we can use the stars. Let's have a look at our film and see what ideas it gives us.
Hello and welcome to the 4th session of our inquiry around going on a journey. We've had the most amazing time looking and walking around our local neighbourhoods, thinking about faraway places, thinking about places where our friends and family have been. So making maps has been really exciting, and now what we're going to do is go on a different type of journey. This journey is going back in time. And when we go back in time, we can start to think about what it would have been like in the olden days. So let's look inside our talking tub and see what we can find. Well, here's an old looking map. And the reason I think it's old is it's a different colour. It's like a brown colour. And I can see there's an old book with a wrinkled cover and an old pair of glasses. And I can see a pot with a feather in it. And I can see a compass. So those things give me a clue to say this looks like an old map. Here's some more things that I can see. So looking at that, my eye goes to the red seal. So there's something there, it looks like it's been made with wax and poured onto that paper and then pushed so that it closes. So we could have a go at making a wax seal just by using a candle. There's a brass thing that looks really interesting. I wonder what that was used for. And on that map, I can see the smallest of things. I can see a drawing that looks a little bit like a sailing ship. Now, people often say that must be a pirate ship. But in the olden days, it wasn't just pirates who went to sea in boats like that. Everybody did. So what we need to do is to try and work out how did they find their way around. And if you remember, the name of that little machine that's in the corner of our screen, that's called a sextant. And they used to use that by looking up at the stars at night and be able to find their way around. Here are the words that say those things. So the white box says wax seal. The goldenrod, you can see, has the word telescope. And then the black box over by the machine is a sextant. So words that we write down tell us about the things that we've got. Here's some other words that are quite interesting. That word on the top says quill. And the quill is by the feather. And if you follow the feather down, you can see it has a golden end on it. So it looks like a pen. So a quill is a pen that's made using a feather. And the little pot beside it has 2 words. It says ink pot. And so inside there must be something that we use to write with, a coloured water called ink. And the olden days didn't have a lot of shops that we could just go to, so they used to have to make their ink, which is something we're going to do in this inquiry. Now, if you decide you want to make an old looking map, one thing you might want to do is see if you can colour your bits of paper. If you know someone that likes a cup of tea, maybe you could ask them if you could use their tea bag after they've finished. Because by using the tea bag, we can dot it all over our paper and we can make it look a different colour, an older colour. Here's another way of doing it. You might know somebody who likes coffee. Well, coffee comes from a coffee bean, which are those little oval areas at the side there. It's like a little bean. And then what the people do is they crush it to get a powder. The brown powder in the middle is then put with water. And when we do that, we get a lovely drink called coffee. So using coffee or old coffee grinds gives us a lovely colour on our map as well. You might find other things in your house or in your setting that you can use. If you decide that you want to make the quill and you like the idea of the writing feather, then you're going to need quite a strong feather and you're going to need a craft knife. Now that's the colour red, and the colour red tells us that it belongs to an adult and a child working together. So to make it into a pen, you cut the end so it's that diagonal. And then what you want to do is get somebody with you to cut a little slit up the middle. And that's where the ink is going to sit. And by doing that, it'll help you write with your lovely new feather pen. Now, do you remember me saying that we used to make the ink? Well, one thing that you can do is to gather these. This is on a tree called an oak tree, and it's called an oak gall. And in the old days, what they discovered was that these were made by a little tiny wasp called a gall wasp. So what happens is that the female wasp lays her eggs inside a little tiny shoot, and as it grows, we're left with this gall, which we can then grind down and make our ink. Some other ideas that you might find when you're out and about. The children at Auchlone like using charcoal from the leftover from our fire. Sometimes if we've got some spare beetroot in the garden, they'll harvest that and use that to make a little bit of red ink. And if we're out for a walk and we find some blackberries that the birds don't want and we think are a bit too rotten to eat, we'll bring those back and put them in a pestle and mortar and grind them down to make a nice dark purpley ink. You might find lots of different things in your house that you can make ink out of. There are many, many different colours I'm sure you can come up with. Things that you might want to find in your house to help you. Well, you're going to need something to crush all of that. So if you haven't got a pestle and mortar, 2 stones are jolly handy. You could use those. You're going to need some water. And the thing about grinding down things like blackberries is that you're left with a lot of mush. So you want to use a sieve. And by using the sieve, you strain out all of the pippy mushy bit and you're left with a beautiful smooth ink in your bowl. So today is a day of thinking about old and ancient things. You might decide that you want to make an ancient map. You might decide you want to make a feather pen, a quill. You might decide that you want to take us on a journey back in time. Whatever it is that you decide to do, I look forward to hearing your ideas and seeing what you do. See you soon.
One of the things I remember about being a little girl is using my tea bags to change my paper, to make it look oldie-worldy, to finding old pens and interesting things to write with. To be able to draw and make a map is a really exciting thing to do. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of the ones that you make. Don't forget to post those photographs in our Facebook group so we can actually share those and have a chat about the wonderful things you've been doing.